Hey guys and girls on Ask Japanese, it's your flashy fashion reporter Kathy Cat. Today we're going to go hit the streets of Tokyo and ask a half Japanese girl what life is like being half Japanese in the US and in Japan. So let's go and ask Japanese. Alright, today we are here with
Aiko.
And Aiko, you are?
Half Japanese?
Yes.
So I'm half Japanese and half American from LA.
Right, so you've been born and raised in?
LA.
Right, and you're here now for?
I'm here for studying for fashion design, hopefully.
Ooh. So today we're gonna go and ask you a couple of questions, just how it is to like be half Japanese. What does that do to your identity? So you said most of the time, your life you've been living in the USA, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
How was that for you?
Not very different because I grew up in a like immersion type program. Mm-hmm. So it's like I learned half of my lessons in Japanese and then half in English.
Oh.
So I was grouped with a bunch of like other half Japanese kids, but then we were very isolated from the rest of the school. So like that's about the only differences really.
So it was like an international school?
Kind of. It was really an American school where there was just like for each grade there was a class that was like half Japanese lessons and half English lessons.
Could people who are not half Japanese go to that school?
Yes, but they'd have to start from first grade because it's like gradually learning the Japanese and English lessons. It's like an immersion program, so you have to start from the beginning or else it's like really hard to get into, especially since Japanese is very like difficult to learn. But there was a couple like just straight up white kids in our class.
If you had parents that were like, you know what, you should learn Japanese, they would just send them to the immersion program.
From first grade, yeah. I had a friend who's like French and American, so she spoke 3 languages, Japanese, French, and English. Though of course, like culturally, it's a little different for them to get used to like Japanese like culture, and like they don't have people to practice with at home, so it'd be a little harder for them in class, but they did do pretty well. Yeah.
So you said you start from grade 1. How old are you at grade 1?
Like 6, 7? I'm not sure.
Oh, so you actually start from elementary school?
Yes. Though a lot of us did, because our parents are Japanese, we went to like a preschool that's Japanese like daycare kind of, so we'd learn from there. But most of us was like at home, and then we just had to learn how to read and write and all that stuff.
Whose idea was it to go to the immersive program?
My mom actually started it with her friends in that city. Because there's a lot of Japanese like moms and stuff that, mostly moms, that wanted all of us to like learn the language and not lose it, I guess.
Wow, all right. So it actually before there wasn't any program like that.
Yeah, not in the city that I was living in or that they wanted to start it in. But they did have it in other languages like Russian or like Spanish, I think. So they got that idea from there and made it into Japanese.
That is super interesting. But establishing that entire program must have been really tough, right? To get like other like maths and physics and stuff in there as well.
I think it was just every school year they choose a different teacher for the grade, and then that teacher could choose if they wanted certain subjects in Japanese or certain subjects in English. So they just chose based off like the California regulations of what has to be taught, and they just teach it in either language.
For example, if you want to learn, say, physics in Japanese, you'd still be in the same school, but you'd have someone who teaches Japanese just in physics.
Yes, though most of my teachers chose not to do math in Japanese because it's kind of confusing. The one year I think we did have to do math. But it's pretty much only up until 6th grade that we had just one teacher doing both lessons. And then once it was middle school, we just have a Japanese language class, and then we just have our regular classes because it's split into 6 different periods.
You'd go to the normal class and have the Japanese class. Now, if the teachers teach it in Japanese, is that the original teacher and you have someone translated to Japanese? No, it actually has to be a person who's good in physics in Japanese.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. So it'd be like any Japanese person that has a teacher's license. And if they're like very good at this one subject, then they'd be like my middle school teacher was like a history major, but she was Nihonjin. So she just translated everything and taught it in Japanese, basically.
Right, but it must have been hard to get all those English, not English, but like Japanese speaking teachers to that school for that class, right?
Yeah, some of them were like brought over from like Hawaii or something. So they'd like move over to teach Japanese to us.
So for 1 year, they will come over to teach it.
And sometimes they just like end up not liking it, and then they just find a different teacher for the next year. Yeah.
So now after this experience, you graduated already?
Yes, I've graduated from American high school.
And after graduating from your American high school, you?
I've moved to Tokyo to study for the JLPT exam.
Right. How is your life in Japan different from your life in America?
Honestly, it's not too different. Kind of just lazy at home. But I do have to study a lot. And then, of course, everything's in Japanese. So there's no like other languages you're hearing. Like I'd usually hear like Spanish. So it's kind of really weird that there's only Japanese going on. And every time I read like English, it's just like something's off with the English.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm trying to get used to the train system, which is kind of hard because I'm not used to public transportation because it kind of sucks in America. So yeah,
I heard that too. Yeah.
it's really bad. You have to wait an hour, and then it takes an hour to get there. It's not very efficient, and it's dirty. It's dirty. Yeah.
But at least here, that's definitely better.
Oh, it's much better, and you just have to follow all the signs that are thankfully written in English too. At the train station, it's very easy.
So if you had to compare, tell me 3 things you miss from the USA, and 3 things you prefer back here, like here now.
Including food.
Yes.
Okay. Elotes, the Mexican corn. And then, okay, these are all turning into food, sorry. Cheeseburgers. No. Probably like everyone's very chill because I'm from LA. So everyone's very chill and everyone's friendly and they're nice and they don't like, why are you taking up the sidewalk? Like look at you. Like if you stop because you dropped something. Or like, and then that's 2. And then 3, probably, I don't know. I think just those 2.
So corn and just people being relaxed.
Yes, relaxed. Oh, and then Japanese people are like very particular about like rules. So like those walkways like in towns where you're not supposed to ride bikes. It's like the sign on the floor.
Yeah.
This old man was like, kinshi desu.
Oh.
And then we had to like walk next to our bikes because that's the only way I knew how to get to the place I was going because I've only gone that way. And so I was riding the bike there and I got okorareta.
Oh, you got told off?
Yeah. They're very particular. So that's a little weird for me to get used to at least.
Yeah, all the rules in Japan. So you said you were in a school with loads of half Japanese kids, right? Coming back here, have you managed to make friends yet?
Not yet. I'm still trying to get like a job to hopefully make friends through that. Though I haven't really seen a lot of half people yet. And I was hoping I could make friends with half people because maybe they know English. Just because it's easier to communicate when like you forget a word and it's in English. But I think I could manage just like Japanese, but I don't know.
So like right now it's a bit difficult because you kind of want someone to also speak English with you?
Yes, and even my family members don't all speak English, so it's a little hard.
So there might be a little bit of, you're worried that your Japanese isn't good enough to speak with people?
It's not that it's not good enough. It's that I have very bad memory, like even in English. So it's really hard to remember like very particular vocabulary that I want to use. So that can be like, that's what I'm like struggling with right now. Probably when I stay here longer, learn more vocabulary, I'll be fine.
Yeah, you'll be more confident as well once you actually start chatting away. I'm sure you've been going to school for years for this. You're going to be good.
Yeah, hopefully. I hope so.
Have you ever had problems making friends in the USA because you're half Japanese and go to that school? Because you said you're very isolated in that school.
Not necessarily, because I'm pretty like friendly, kind of. So like if I see something that I like someone's wearing, because I'm very fashion oriented, or like they're wearing like a band t-shirt, I'd be like, oh my god, I love that band. What's your favorite song? Or something like that. But like it feels weird to do that here.
Good point.
It's like meiwaku. Like why am I stopping this random person from their busy day? So like hopefully if I go to fashion school, it'll be fine to do that. But Also in LA, it's not that there was a lot of half people. It was just my little class was half, and then like everyone else in the school was like Mexican or like white or like Armenian. So that was like not a lot of people knew exactly, besides anime, what Japanese culture really meant. So like if we brought obento and it had like natto or something, they'd be like, oh my god, that stinks so bad.
Oh.
So like that was a little annoying, and we'd all be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they just said that to me. But I think my class was pretty okay at like explaining things and not getting too upset about it. Yeah, but just like those tiny little like microaggressions. Yeah.
But the good thing is you had other people to be with you in that group, right? To like back you up a little.
Yes, thankfully. And there are a lot of people now that like anime and Japanese culture, even like not J-pop, J-rock, like VK. So there are a lot of people who like Lolita style, obviously. So it's not too difficult these days. But you know, when I was little, growing up, it was just like, okay, so no one cares you're Japanese. Yeah.
Oh, so before people didn't really quite care, but now it's a kind of, is it a bit of a brand now?
It is kind of like it is very much a brand. Like, it comes from a place of like ignorance, not like negatively, but just like they don't really have to put in the effort to understand it too much past anime or like geisha, basically. Yeah. They just like, oh my gosh, look, they'll look at anything anime, Naruto. You're like, no, it's not Naruto. Which is like fine, because it's just like, it's usually like old ladies that are just trying to relate with their kids, but you're just like, please, just a little more attention, please.
Well, like, oh, it's a Naruto, and it's, look, is this a Pokemon kind of?
Yeah, any type of Asian looking thing. Even if it's like K-pop, they'll be like, isn't this one of those Japanese boys? And you're like, no.
Right, so a lot of stereotypes maybe?
Yeah, definitely. Especially like, because there aren't a lot of very Asian people in the city that I grew up in. So it's kind of hard to like see the differences between the Asian cultures, at least the East Asian cultures. So like the difference between Korean and Chinese and Japanese aren't very well known. Like they might know in their head like, oh, this is what Chinese food looks like, but they kind of just bunch it all together. So they just assume it's all the same. Yeah.
So that's sort kind of prejudices are still there nowadays.
Not too much nowadays, because like my generation is all like, no, you're wrong. That's very wrong. And we'll like tell people, especially like you see those people with the kanji tattoos.
Oh, yeah.
You're just like, that doesn't say what you think it says. Like we'll tell them. But I think it's really just the older generation that hasn't really clicked yet to be a little more sensitive about those things. Yeah.
So right now things are changing for the positives then.
Yes, thankfully, because of like media and like Netflix series that are like Japan version that show up on American Netflix, or like the Japanese drama and the K-drama, and even now they have C-drama on Netflix, so younger people or anyone really, like all the Mexican old ladies who love telenovelas watch the K-drama and they're like, it's so similar, but it's just in a different language. So like that kind of stuff with the globalization of those big entertainment companies really helps. I'm somehow an advocate for Netflix, sorry.
Yeah, no, it's like, hey, Netflix saving the world to make it a better place, more inclusive and everything.
Yeah, I went a little into that, sorry.
No, that's fantastic. No, thank you so much. So we can see some positive changes.
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for talking to us for so long. We ask a lot of questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So if you're curious what life is like for half Japanese people, we actually asked Japanese people what their thoughts are on half Japanese people, and that video is here. That might be something that might be right down your alley if you're curious about this topic. And thank you so much for hitting the subscribe button. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next video. This was Cat the Cat. Bye!